taken this latch, I'm going to take the tailgate outside. I've taken this tailgate on and off this Bronco probably 75 times. And now it's time to go outside because the quarters are tacked in and everything fits. There's something rattling in here and I gotta know. I just gotta know what it is. Okay, I have another. Oh, I see. Got 2 bolts on the back side. Okay, I'm going to play with this. Now, one thing with tailgates, a lot of times on a build, the tailgate, and you just learn this from experience, tailgate's kind of like the forgotten piece. You know, you throw your box together and man, it looks so good, you put your tailgate on, it doesn't fit. And that's why I'm starting with the tailgate and working this way, because if I put these quarter panels in and I get them splayed in, or next thing you know, I'm grinding welds or trying to grind the tailgate to make it fit, and that's just not the way to do it. But I got it fitting really, really nice, so anything I do from here on isn't going to affect it. But there's some rattling in here and I got to find out what it is. And I suspect it's going to be a tool. So I'm going to play around with this. We'll be back in a sec. 1/2 inch. No, I'm really not too pretty sure what that is. You can see where the bolt has broke off. Some sort of support. Darn, I was hoping for a snap-on ratchet. Oh well, that's what it is. Welcome everybody, Steve here. Well, I got the quarters on and I've got them, just tacked on. I don't want to, I'm not going to completely weld this up until we get everything figured out for the front. We're coming from the front now, coming this way. But this was a lot of work and I'm so glad that this is done. Well, it's not done yet, but even these, the filler on the quarter here, I had to gap it here to make it work. And that's a pretty simple little process, but that's just another step. So just beware, if you're, I know, like most people watching this video, it's for pure entertainment only. But if you're, trying to get a hint or something like that about, working on your Bronco, just heads up. This stuff is not very good stuff, and it's going to take some time to get everything fitting the way you want it to fit. But it's worth it in the end. Just take some time. So now we're going to move forward. We're going to get some of this front area all fixed up, and then we can start, working on the doors, fenders, making sure everything fits, and then we can button everything up, start the body work. So I'm going to show you what I got to do up front here. So one of the things I got to do, we cut this big hole in here. Brother had I don't know what these 2 holes would have been for. Did a nice job though, got them centered. And anyway, we cut this out. And this is where the rotisserie went when Kevin first got started on this, we put the rotisserie on it, and so we need to cut a hole in here so that we can get our bar through here. So that needs to be repaired. We got a little bit of rust over here. The floors have been replaced, so we need to make sure that they're good. And I'll body work a little bit of the the seams and things like that, because I really like to have, it's easy just to leave the floors, but I like having nice floors. And up here you see all this stuff, so I'm going to make sure that it looks half-assed decent. And then if we got some holes to weld up, but I think we're okay. I don't know. I'll have to get Kevin to figure that one out. But yeah, so we're just gonna get this all cleaned up, get it into primer. We got some stuff up here this is all bent up here. I don't know why that would be bent. But all this stuff has to get fixed. Might be more work than I expected. But anyway, we'll get it started on today. See if we can get some of these rust holes fixed up. Maybe we can start smelling some Bondo. So I just chucked this tub in here just to see how it was going to fit. Not the best in the world. I got a pretty good gap in here, so I may end up having to, cut here and pull this out. I don't know yet. But anyway, I just put it in there to see what we're up against. The back fits really good. The rest of it seems to be fitting really good. So if this is the only spot that I have to move over, because we got about 3/8 there and an 1/8 of an inch there. Some guys would just caulk that all up. I'm not going to do that. We'll weld her up. We'll fix it. Well, since we have this piece here, this looks like it's pretty close to 90 on that side. I just have to trace it, get it out. Pretty easy. No pattern required. Now I'm using 18 gauge satin coat, and I think that'd probably be fairly close to 20 gauge if you're just using a an uncoated metal. But I like the satin coat because it gives you a little bit of protection in the back side, if that makes any sense. So you're doing a panel, at least it's got kind of a galvanized coating on it. But if you're doing body work, I grind that coating off so that I get a good adhesion. Okay, find my zip cut this out. So I just welded up there was a little bit of a rust pit there with a pinhole, and you can tack those up and you're fine. But this one here, is just a little bit too big. So I'm going to make a patch. Of course, you want to make it bigger than what the hole is. You can see it, I know you probably can't see it, but it bulges up. So basically what that means is the rust is accumulating underneath here. So we'll get rid of that. Hopefully, yeah, I'm going to have one spot weld that's going to be a bit of a pain. But it's okay. We'll figure it out. Normally what I do is I'm making my patch. That way, if I cut out the hole, then my patch fits right away. So alright, we got this all ground up, it's all ready to go, but there's a lot of rust up in here, pretty well gone. So what I'm going to do is cut this out of here and make a new panel, weld it up there. And then right down in here, Kevin did a little bit of patching, but there's holes everywhere. So I'm going to just take and cut this out of here. And I'm going to put in a brand new piece right there. It's way easier than fixing up all these little, there's pinholes and everything's so thin that it's going to be tough to do, so I'm not even going to bother with that. Just going to cut it out, replace it. Rest of it's looking good. Floor's looking good now. And, I've got this little rust spot over here fixed up, so now I can start to body work that. The areas that you're going to see, and then get this done. This stuff here doesn't have to be body worked, but still got to get done. So cut her up. This is the best part of rust repair, is making the panels. It's kind of a fun job. That's close. Let's be a little further out. So the original's got this little dip in here. Kind of, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I know if I don't put the little dip in there, something's not gonna fit. So we'll just have to figure out how to do that. Shouldn't be too hard. So all I did was just bent the corners down, and then now take my mask off so I can talk. Now we can let's put in this flat piece right here, just like yonder. That should be good enough. All right, it's perfect, but my welder's not on. Let me start over again. Just too much paint on my welding table. I'm gonna have to give her a buff. So got my little dipsy doodle made. It wasn't that tough. Looks pretty good. Don't know why it's there, but I'm not about to not find out. So now I gotta just fit this thing up. What happens here? Okay, looks like I gotta cut this notch out of here. You just have to slowly work your way through this one because you know, this is one of those ones where I didn't cut a perfectly straight line, so, you know, you gotta massage it a little bit with the grinder, but it only takes a few minutes to do that. All right, I'm just gonna cut this out. This has to be flat. Got the zip cut over here. All right, I tacked this piece in here. I tacked this one in. I didn't want to bore you with a pretty simple little patch, but yeah, these are going to be a bit of a pain to weld up. You know, this one here is okay. This one down here, you know, the metal's a little thin, and it's like, ugh. But we'll get her all figured out. So just about done this area now. So now I can start to body work, you know, some of the areas that we're gonna see. And yeah, that makes me happy. You know, this rust repair, you know, it's fun, but it's, you know, it doesn't last very long. So we'll get this all welded up and then get working on some filler. it's April 22nd, and we just had a really good snowstorm. Now the little brother, he measured this morning. Of course, it's a little warmer now. It's going to be a really nice warm day, so most of this is going to melt today. But we had 14 inches. That's a lot. But we need the moisture. So the whole idea here is I'm going to, down in this area, I'm going to undercoat it. But up here, I'm not going to undercoat it. So, you know, if you're wondering why in the world am I doing body work underneath the seat, well, you know what? Some of this stuff you see, right? And you're going to see this whole back area because the back piece comes right up here. So, yeah, you don't want to do a really nice build and then just have one little thing, they know, that just kind of sticks out. Do your best. Make it look good so that you can be proud of it. By no means are we going to make this thing lightning straight, you know. My lightning isn't very straight. That'd be a bad analogy there. And I'm not going to do too much hand finishing here. I'm going to try and avoid that. I'll get out the sander. There might be some stuff that you have to hand sand because you can't get in there, but that's okay. Okay, if you got a hole and you need to lift it up, I just use a screw, just put a bolt on there, slip it in there, and you just take your bar, and then you can lift it up. So I'm using a different type of a filler today. I let my buddy at the automotive paint store upsell me a bit. It's not that much more, it's like $10 a tub full more. And it's made by Automotive Art. It's called Eurofill. And my initial take on it is, this is really nice. I'm getting way less pinholes, you know. Gotta make sure I know where my hole is. Less pinholes. It's find it easy to file. And the important thing to me is adhesion. And so far I have not run into an issue with adhesion. And that is pretty key. If your filler doesn't stick, then what's the point? Some fillers I use, they're tough to file. They harden up real quick, but this seems to, you know, kind of hold its own for a bit so I can file it. And I said I was just going to hit this with the sander, but I flattened it out a little bit with some 40 grit first on a block, and then after that, just hit her with the orbital. Like I said, I'm not spending too much time on this, just making it look good. I'm just going to do a little sandblasting today. It's a nice day, snow's gone, and just there's a couple spots that are just a little too rusty to, you know, buff out with a wire wheel. So I'm going to sandblast it and give everything a power sand underneath, so we don't have to do anything. Shouldn't take me very long. I probably will not film this part because I have to get a little too close and don't want sand in my camera. I can finally start putting some filler down on this. I like it. You know, this, I'm just thinking about how much time I'm putting in on this Bronco. And, man, I tell you what, if this was just a regular vehicle, it'd be a waste of time. But, being as it's a Bronco, it's worth putting that little extra effort into it, I guess, but tons of work. But you got to get the, you know, all the dumb things done. The outside is the easy part. It's making everything fit. Doing all the prep work. You know, I don't need to be doing this because, you know, I'm putting carpet in there, but I wouldn't do this to my own vehicle. I'd make sure that, you know, somebody wanted the option of not putting the carpet in. Well, guess what? It's gonna look good. So to be able to get her in one shot. You know, if you've never filed a filler before, give it a try. It's really kind of zen-like. Just make sure you catch it before it gets too hard. So I'm just putting down some fiber fill here, and basically just going over the welds, you know, kind of making things look a little nicer than what they are. Makes a big difference. You know, you want your floor to look kind of half-assed, but what it also does is there's a little pinhole, or if your metal's a little thin, it's just going to be that one little extra step of protection. And I'll just give it a quick file and then sand her down with some 40 grit with this. You saw me sanding there. This is my second coat on here. So far it looks pretty darn good. These are the little jobs that nobody likes to do. I know I don't. Because it just seems like you don't see it. So, you know, you have to struggle with that in your mind going, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Well, I like my floors to look good. Keep shoddy to a minimum. So before I ship the Bronco to my brother's shop, I gotta make sure that these edges are all true. And this happens, so you know, if you see a restoration and the doors go like this, that's just shoddy. You gotta make sure that these are flat. You can see this one here is a little bit extreme. Still out there just a little tiny bit. It's good here. Good here. Good there. So just a little bit of tuning. We're a little bit low here. So I've got to pound this way. So go along and make sure your doors are all nice and flat. Now, this little guy right here, this is a bit of a pain. I'll show you one thing you can do. Sometimes you can get underneath here. Well, even then that's a little bit tricky. Pound this down. But what I'm gonna do is, there's a little bit of rust right here. So when I cut that out, I'll be able to get my hand in there with a dolly, tap that down. But you gotta get pretty creative to get rid of some of that stuff. So I'm just going to straighten this stuff out because you can't line your doors up if everything's crooked. Well, we're getting close to the end here on the inside here. Just got a little bit more filler to put in. A few more spots. Well, quite a bit left yet. You know, it's not going to be a 20-minute job, but we're getting pretty close. And it feels good. And then hopefully, I think what I'm going to do, because it's going to be a little bit of time here before we, you know, get everything done, then I'll probably, you know, prime this so that just eliminates any issues with some rusting or... I don't want to take a chance. I don't want to start over again. Start doing more sanding. Okay, just gonna grab a rag here. Use my finger, make everything look pretty here. I'll put it right there. Basically, if you get your finger wet with some thinner, you can make a pretty nice finish on the inside groove here. And then you don't have to really do any sanding. So I'm pretty well done with this. You know, we got everything looking okay. Now it's time for some sealer, and we'll go with the epoxy primer, and then we're gonna go with some feather fill. And then from feather fill, we'll just sand it, get it all ready for paint. And then I think what we'll do is we'll undercoat the floors before we paint them, and then paint everything, and it'll be just pretty. Now, one of the things, just gonna mention, this is a piece of caulking. Now, all underneath here, I know you can't see it, but there is a lot of caulking in here that has to be redone. You know, when you're doing these restorations on these old vehicles, you pretty well got to pull everything out, start over again. I know that's a lot of work, and I've mentioned this before, you know, Fords are really, there's a lot of caulking in here. I've got probably 5 hours worth of work just doing in here. Every seam has to be caulked. But that's what you got to do if you want it waterproofed. All right, I'm just going to get everything set up, start taping this off, blow it off, and get it ready for tomorrow. That's when we're gonna do all the priming. It shouldn't take too long to mask this all up. It's gonna take longer to do my shop than it will be to do this. But that's okay. This only takes 2 brain cells to do, so it's kind of nice, you know, masking stuff up. I don't mind doing it. But I always mask my own stuff, because if you miss something, then you've only got yourself to blame. All right, 1 coat of epoxy coming up. All right, this door here, I had to do a little adjusting on this top hinge to get her in, but she's in. And yeah, this side fits really nice. But we also got to make the fender fit. We have to make sure that all of our measurements are right, and then we can glue this thing together, start doing the bodywork. But first of all, going to give Kevin an opportunity to do a little bit of work on this. And that gives me a bit of a break. I'm going to paint my tailgate. And I don't know, maybe work on a couple other little things, other projects. Got a bunch of other stuff coming in. So, you know, you just sometimes, you know, you concentrate on one big project and time gets away on you. Anyway, I think that's going to handle it for this episode. So until the next one, thanks for watching. Stay tuned.